Yo, I'm going to try to keep this quick because this is a very specific fix for a very specific problem. So if you run just one Novation circuit by itself or with external gear, this doesn't affect you at all. But if you have multiple Novation circuits connected to each other, this is a very big deal. So, Novation recently released firmware updates for the circuit tracks and circuit rhythm that solve project switching, because here's the intended behavior. If you have one circuit controlling another circuit via MIDI, you should be able to switch projects on your primary device and have it also switch projects on the secondary device. In this case, my circuit rhythm is the primary device, the circuit tracks is the secondary device. So if I switch projects on my circuit rhythm, the projects follow on the circuit tracks, which is really nice. The problem is that sometimes projects on the secondary device would kick in at the wrong time. I'm talking kicking in the middle of patterns, which is obviously very disruptive sounding and a problem that Novation agreed was worth addressing. And I should mention right up front, I have no idea if Novation has any other updates planned. This was obviously meant to just make these work together how they were always intended to. And yes, I have tested this update pretty rigorously and it works, but you need to know how it works in order to get it to work properly, because if you don't know how it works, it will still give you some unpredictable behavior. So check this out. I'm going to show you an example of it going wrong first, and then I'm going to show you the fix that works seemingly 100% of the time. So, you may have noticed that this project kicked in too early compared to this project, and you could hear this pad kick in too early. To understand the fix for it, there's a bit of circuit knowledge that I actually didn't specifically know until it was specifically told to me. But each circuit has to have a way of knowing how long to wait until it switches to a new thing that's been queued up. So for the circuit rhythm, it uses track 1. So if you have a 1 bar long pattern on track 1 and then you queue up a new project to switch to, it will wait until that 1 bar long pattern has finished and then move on to the next thing. If you have a 2 bar long pattern, so a 32-step pattern on the circuit rhythm on track 1, and you switch to a new project, it will wait until the 2 bars have finished before it switches. Same deal on the circuit tracks with drum 1. If you have a 1 bar long pattern on drum 1, it will wait till that 1 bar is finished until it switches to the next thing. So you could have crazy long chord progressions and chains of patterns and slowed down patterns on all the other tracks, and the circuits will just ignore them and only use track 1 on the circuit rhythm and drum 1 on the circuit tracks to choose when to switch to the next scene, the next project, etc. So in this example, the reason that these weren't coming in at the correct time is that my circuit rhythm track 1 pattern was a different length from my circuit tracks drum 1 pattern. This kick and snare pattern rather, is 32 steps long. It's 2 bars long. Whereas this blank drum 1 pattern on the circuit tracks, it's just 1 bar long. It's blank. Why should I have to put anything in it? But that means that once this pattern finishes on the circuit tracks, and I've already queued up my next project, it just immediately switches to it once that 1 bar is over. So what I need to do is just always make sure that for every project, my active track 1 pattern on the circuit rhythm and my active drum 1 pattern on the circuit tracks are the same length. If that's always the case, both devices will wait the same amount of time to switch to their next projects when they've been queued up. And I should mention, it's not about number of steps, it's about the amount of time that passes. And let me show you what I mean. So here's our example project. And I've got my 32-step long or 2 bar long kick and snare pattern. So all I have to do to make sure that this project switching works correctly is change my drum 1 pattern to be 32 steps long. If I save that, both devices wait the same amount of time before switching to the next queued up project. This also works, however, if instead of doing a 32 bar long pattern, I do a 1 bar long pattern that has been slowed down by half. So let me save that, and you will see that it still works. So the pattern length in terms of time needs to be the same. If that's the case, this will always work. And I should mention that you don't have to go chasing around every single pattern on every single project. You just need to make sure that you match the pattern lengths for the last pattern that's going to be active on each device before you do a project switch. So, for example, for this song, I'm not super worried about my drum track lengths for the purposes of project switching. I just need to make sure that for this final scene, for this pattern and this pattern, that those lengths are the same for this build. So in this case, for this final scene, I've got this pattern here, where I've crammed an entire build into one pattern. So that's a 4 bar long pattern where I've made a 32 step pattern and then slowed it down by half. So I just need to make sure that whichever pattern I have active at the same time in this scene on the circuit tracks is also 4 bars long. So I'll just give this the exact same treatment. And now it'll wait until it's done. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if you have any clarifying questions in the comments. But regardless, if you'd like to see a thorough description of the original problem, plus just a description of how I have these two devices connected, you can check this out up over here. And if you'd like to see some more dual circuit stuff in action, you can check this out up over here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back with a new video in a little bit.